Hello, boys and girls and children of all ages. Fat Bastard Wannabe Buddha coming at you today. Today is September 11th, not 2019, 2013, something like that. I forget sometimes. It's on the way over from work today. I was listening to radio, and it reminded me that this was the 1-year anniversary of the greatest human scandal and calamity to ever befall the United States government, and that was the murder or assassination of one of our ambassadors in Benghazi. Oh yeah, it's also September 11th, the 12th year anniversary of 9/11. But the top of every hour and the 35-minute break of every hour was carried both stories as though they were morally equal, which I found absolutely hilarious. But it's interesting. Today I will come and talk to you and spread the great joy of conspiracy, learned helplessness, and yeah, those are my two topics. Conspiracy, the nature of conspiracy, and learned helplessness again. I like beating the trudging around through the concept of conspiracy, so I do that again today. So I find it interesting and somewhat illuminating that today is September 11th, and it is the anniversary of two horrific conspiracies. One of the conspiracies is the Benghazi conspiracy that the right wing still harps on and bangs on. But if you ever confront them and ask them what exactly is the problem in Benghazi besides the murder of the ambassador, which was what, Christopher Stevens, Ambassador Christopher Stevens, which is a horror thing, but it wasn't at the actual consulate. It was basically at a sort of safe house district in Benghazi. What exactly is the scandal there? And they hem and haw about it, and it's basically that we left 4 Americans out there to die. Well, the Americans in questions were operators, and they were normally probably operating for the CIA. They weren't SEALs. They weren't Marines. The Marines protect the ambassadors. Those guys were operators. They were wet work people. People who might have been U.S. military at one point, but sold their services clandestinely to work for private contractors. I'm not a huge fan of this, and my family's got a long ties to a lot of military, and I don't much care for mercs. And these individuals were mercs. And the question is, what's the conspiracy there? Well, the conspiracy is, what was the ambassador doing in that part of the region? And there's several concepts about what he might have been doing, and they either, because this portion of the country was the #1 recruiting spot for most of Al Qaeda, most of the fundamentalist Mujahideen, those who wish to go out there and practice jihad throughout the world with Saudi Arabian bankrolls. That's the dirty secret of who's financing most of the Mujahideen, Al Qaeda, and most of the organizations, excluding some of the Sunni Shia-based organizations like Hezbollah, which get its funding from probably Iran. But the Sunni-backed and some Shia-backed, most of it's come out of Wahhabist Saudi Arabia. But what they were doing there was either getting some weapons that had fallen into the hands of these people, like, I don't know, basic Stinger-type missiles, or they were trying to recruit these people or give them weapons to go into Syria and other places. We still don't know exactly what was going on there. And yes, that's the real scandal about it. But if you talk to most right-wingers, they're less concerned about that aspect of it, of the covert war, the constant churning up this. And that's sort of interesting on my side of it, because I agree there's probably a conspiracy about Benghazi. And the conspiracy is we were messing, the United States government was mucking around and stuff it should have been mucking around with, and it got sold out and betrayed by the people that it was trying to either buy off or give weapons to or have to go fight their proxy wars. But it won't come from naught. I'm rambling, and I want to go back to conspiracy in regards to 9/11, and also learned helplessness. This is one of the things I find interesting, and hopefully I can tie it into a nice little neat bow and not bore you to death. I think, let's take 9/11. This is the anniversary, the 12th year anniversary, and there's basically 3 conspiracies on 9/11. There is that 17 hijackers who were predominantly Mideastern origin, predominantly out of Saudi Arabia, that got some kind of financing out of maybe a third-party government. It was rumored maybe Pakistani intelligence was, had jumped aboard and was financing this. That they got some of their training through a portion of Afghanistan, and they came to America, got some flight training, boarded this with some box cutters, and brought down 4 United States airliners in the most populous, protected air zone in the planet Earth. That's one conspiracy. That's the official conspiracy, and people hem and haw about little minor details, but it's basically that's the conspiracy that is pretty well sold to the American people. And most people, nice, professional, middle-class people, go through their life, and that's the conspiracy they accept. The other conspiracy is 2 varieties. It's the let it happen. That is pretty much, it was, a Pakistani funny with hobbyist money coming out of Saudi Arabia with some Pakistani state influence, and maybe 1 or 2 more actors in there. Depends who they want to, who acts they're grinding against, and so even the I guess the anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish coalition can fall in to some of the let it happen crusade to a degree by saying they got some funding on stuff from Mossad and everything else. But basically they knew it was going along and they let it go along and they didn't intervene. That's the let it happen conspiracy. The other conspiracy is made it happen. And that ranges from actually United States government doing, Mossad doing it, the outside powers that be after World War II who live on their little space station, the people, the breakaway civilization that lives wherever it lives, that if you follow the really nutty conspiracies, that they wanted to show their beam weaponry and all the rest of it. So you can go to the far extreme on the made it happen, and the more reasonable that it was some kind of proxy government agents from the United States government, maybe Mossad, maybe some Saudi Arabia. It depends whose ox they're trying to gore. So those are the three main conspiracy: the official conspiracy, the let it happen conspiracy, and the made it happen conspiracy. And where the obvious question is, where do you fall in line with this little Buddha? And my point is, I truthfully have no idea. At the time of the thing, I was more in the camp of they probably knew more than they knew and suspected more than they should have, and they weren't surprised as much as they should have been with it. But I don't think it was an orchestrated campaign. I just think it was a giant blunder, or some people sort of wanted it to happen, and they just look the other way why certain things happen. So in some ways I'm in the let it happen campaign. Can I verify all of it? Nope. Nope. But that's not the question I'm posing today. The question I'm posing today is those who fall into the extreme let it happen campaign or the made it happen campaign. And it's very interesting. I think from a basic psyops point of view, those things serve a greater agenda. It forms a... I grew up with a lot of people that believed all kinds of little weird conspiracies things. I grew up around folks that believed that John F. Kennedy was killed by the United States government. Straight out, was killed by it. But they dutifully paid their taxes. They dutifully went to the wars. They dutifully sent and paid their taxes. Well, I said paid their taxes. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. But they dutifully voted and they went out their lives and everything, even though they fundamentally believed that the United States government had killed their president. And they still functioned and acted normally and everything else. And you confronted these people about this. Why is you doing it? And it's basically the conspiracy is so vast and overwhelming that it creates a sense of learned helplessness, that you can't do anything about it. These forces are so arrayed against you, the common individual, that there's all these great and wondrous machines and Machiavellian plots going out there that is so beyond the mere mortals that you can't do anything. If there isn't a conspiracy, they would have to make one up in order to be able to control such the populace. So most of, in my gut, and this is just a visceral thing, most of the people out there in the conspiracy networks and everything else, and I'm sort of rambling, I think they're part of the game. I think they were pretty much paid for by the CIA and the rest of the boys and girls in order to preach this learned helplessness to the American people, that there's these great outside forces that are beyond their control and influence. And that's my conspiracy of the day. And I'm already pushing around 11 to 10, 12 minute mark on this video, so I'm going to slow it down a little bit and wrap it up. And I think there is a connection to the overwhelming nature, this apocalyptic thinking that's going on currently, this drive towards conspiracy as a way of breaking down the human individual into the sense of atomizing them even further and further, that they are not an independent actor that can make their voice heard on the world stage. And it helps to minimize the role the individual can take, either positively or negative, in a society they find themselves in. And that's the dark side of conspiracy. That's the side of conspiracy that if you were really controlling folks, that's what you want to drive people with. That's why you want to have all the conspiracy out there. That's why you want to promote it out there, that there's this grand conspiracy out there, so it minimizes the individual. It minimizes the individual actor in the society as a whole. The lone individual has no substance. And that's my thought for the day. And I'm curious about what other people think about it. Is this a reasonable expectation of the nature of how conspiracy is being used in this society? And as always, thank you very much for listening to the Fat Bastard Ramble for a while. Please like, subscribe, and favorite. Thank you.